Good morning. Hello, and welcome to episode 91 of No Particular Reason. I am your host, Yanko, and Kerry Lewis might join us later on, or maybe not at all. We'll see how it goes. You probably already know how the show operates and why it's called for no particular reason, because we're not planning any of that stuff. Everything happens how it's supposed to happen. So, we'll see how this will go. And I would like to welcome you again, and we'll see how the show it's going to go. As usual, if you have any questions, we or I will welcome any of your questions over the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat and attempt to answer or help you in any way I can. As usual, this show, I like to remind everyone that airs every Friday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. Then bring you inspirational guests. But again, today we have nobody, no guest, and that's not as usual for a holiday season. But we'll see as we come to the as we come in close to the end of the year. And today I want to talk about something that I've been marinating in a little bit on in what really means to be awakened, or what is this whole awakening um, thing that people are talking about most of the time, and how this relates to consciousness or subconscious or conscious mind, um, and what is that all about. Um, So, and I'll give you my perspective on what I think it is. And I would like to open a conversation with you guys and hear what you guys have to say about that as well. And usually, um, what I was thinking in the beginning is one means to be awakened. It's being positive all the time, or having special knowledge or secret information that rest of the people don't know or have, or feeling that you're calm all the time, or loving and elevated 24/7, which usually it's not true. Or rejecting the matrix and blaming the system for, oh, this is what's happening. Where another one that having no triggers or fears or emotional reactions to things, and almost kind of like becoming numb to reality, or what's happening around. But that's really not what is that all about. um, it's quite opposite. Once you start going in and doing some kind of practice, some kind of meditational work, or some sort of observation of, like, knowing how you operate, or how your consciousness operates, or what's happening in your life, you kind of start to see your own patterns without judgment. You know, you train the mind to bring that to your knowledge, so you're not automatically go through things in life. You start to notice those more often, and you become quite opposite. You start to notice everything, all the flavors, good and bad, and um, loving, hate, in all the opposites that you weren't aware of before, because you were just operating in a autopilot mode, kind of. Um, and that gives you ability to notice when you're reacting, instead of just um, and you choose how to react in different different situations. Um, and another thing, by being more aware of how your body feels in different situations or emotions that are happening. And while the emotions are happening, you're able to um, observe and not react and jump into conclusions more often as usually people do. Um, and um, and another side effect of um, that, of when you start being aware more of it, is taking responsibilities without self blame. Um, you see how everything unfolds, and you take responsibility for it without blaming yourself. And it's kind of paradoxical, um, because you see both ends. Um, you have the clarity and the humility at the same time when that unfolds. And so, um, another thing that I'm thinking in I'm aware of more is that awakening is not a identity. It's not a new identity. It's not um, personality or something that you wear as a badge, um, because you had it all along, but because of the automatic behaviors and things that you've been doing, usually um, were unconscious. They were automatic and you weren't aware of it. So, in reality, um, you're starting to awaken from that automatic operation. So that's why I think it's people call it awakening. um, in and if you adopt it as a identity, then it becomes another program basically. Because if and when you start observing how you operate from day to day, you'll notice that a lot of the things that are happening are automatic and they're pre-programmed, or being taken as valid. And because our mind loves to take shortcuts, it uses it, and it saves thinking power to take the shortcut and execute the program. And I'm noticing more and more because I'm fascinated by the whole process, and I'm fascinated by my own being and how I operate. I noticed that there's a lot of people that also done this kind of research and through the years and discover the same thing, that you adapt different identities, and um, that becomes your normal operation. But true awareness doesn't need to announce itself. Um, in the ego or the mask that we're wearing can um, use different ways to communicate and take different flavors or um, different characters very very commonly. So um, that's that's what happens usually. And then I had the idea that when you're conscious, you're on constant bliss, like, because everything it's a vibration, and everything it's high vibration of um, love, unconditional love. Um, when you start working on yourself or getting to know how everything operates, and you become this observer of your mind, emotion, body sensations, and all that. There are states where you could be in bliss, and that could be mistaken for um, some kind of target that you can strive to, because again the mind likes to uh, cling to things that likes and dislikes. And if you experience the bliss, you might just go after it and wanting to reproduce that feeling, which in theory just takes you off the present and allows the mind to do another program that keeps on going and keeps repeating it. Oh, thank you, Bonnie. Took me a little bit to get to messages, but I'm glad you're here, and uh, we have in the show for another Friday. Um, and I love that you love my background. I picked it up. It's I kind of liked it too. So yeah. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And go ahead and interrupt at any time you feel like, if you have any questions, or if you want to stop me and ask anything in any moment. But I'm just going and talking about consciousness. So um, and then the other thing is that people also sometimes mistaken that awareness doesn't remove challenges. It changes your relationship to them. So when you're aware more of the stuff that's going on, because you're becoming this consciousness that observes, you're not, again, you're awake to what's going on. You're not just going by to get by, or getting from one place to another place. Um, and then being conscious doesn't mean that uh, you escaping the human experience. It's quite the opposite. You become painfully aware of everything that you weren't aware of before, because again you're awakened to what's going on. You're not automatically just going, and by automatic I mean, like, I'll give you an example. Sometimes people, when they drive their car, their mind can go and be fascinated about the future or something else, while everything else is happening automatically. You're holding the steering wheel, or if you're driving a manual, you might be changing gears, doing everything automatically without um, your conscious being involved in the process. Um, so that's one of the things. Being conscious doesn't mean you escape the human experience. It's quite opposite. You become aware of um, all the sensations around. You can feel more, or um, be aware of like sounds, music, birds singing, or something else happening in the background. And in that expansion sometimes might feel uncomfortable um, before it feels freeing, because you condition yourself for so many years to operate in a certain way, and all of a sudden your system gets a lot more, well, your conscious becomes more aware of things that you weren't aware before, because where attention goes, consciousness flows. Um, so yeah, and and um, and I'm gonna talk about a little bit how hypnosis fills into this thing, because I also do hypnosis with people. Hypnosis reveals the unseen scripts that are running on your daily life. It's another instrument that you can use to become aware of what's going on, um, almost like a shortcut which kind of gives you that ability, if you're a beginner, to see what's beyond that automatic operating that happens. But ultimately, when you anchor into the present with non judgmental mindset, then you become more aware of what's going on your own, and that's not really needed. Um, and it could also help with emotional imprinting in childhood. If you had something that's now in you and you're not aware of it, that could also help with. In And also repeating thoughts. Mm, if in when you become more aware of your say patterns or repeating thoughts, or say you sit and do some kind of observation, not to um, get liberated or to be in bliss or to escape reality. You just sit because that's what you are. um, you're just consciousness and play, and you sit and you observe the coming and going of thoughts and emotions and things like it. um, then it'll become really clear how your um, consciousness creates your reality, because a lot of the coming and going of memories and thoughts and patterns um, are taken as real, and they're being acted upon, and that usually um, put you in the situations based on what those are. um, and and then the real question becomes not if you're hypnotized, but what are you hypnotized by, you know because usually we're fascinated by things that are happening in life. We're fascinating by our surrounding when we're in that stage of uh, perceiving. And like I said, when that happens, you don't become numb, you become more aware. You're expanding in little sip of coffee, the taste of it, the warmth of the cup, the smell of the coffee, everything becomes a lot more pronounced, and you're aware of it a lot more. So, in a lot of the situations, we're more um, fascinated, almost entranced in that experience. And um, and then I want to talk about um, how awakening is not controlling your thoughts. Some people think that if you're awakened, or I've seen that on social media when people start like, "You, the awakened ones," or something like that, like a label. Uh, and that could be mistaken that, like, okay, if I'm awakened, I'm not in control of my thoughts. Uh, it's in reality, you're realizing you're not your thoughts, uh, because you're becoming this observation, that consciousness that just has no flavor, no need to do anything. It just is. Um, uh, but then say you want to control things, and that creates tension. Uh, but awareness creates the space where you don't have to do any of that. Um, In choices emerge naturally from that clarity of that space, the gap in between. um, so you have a lot more choice to consciously choose the outcome of any situation that you want to um, perceive the way it is. And then there is also the um, um, and also there's the self-talk that might go in. Some people that start going through that process where they say, well, I'm awake, and so that shouldn't affect me. And again, that comes from mindset and in the mind wanting to have an outcome, or thinking that all right, so if I'm awake, that shouldn't affect me, because that's a conclusion that the mind makes out of observing how other people that are awake reacting in different situations. um, and then um, another misconception could be avoiding emotions instead of feeling them in different situations. And again, that's not what it is. You're becoming more aware because now it's coming into your conscious, not just being automatic. Um, and then suppressing anger, grief, or fear could also be part of that misconception of, all right, so now that I have this awareness, I shouldn't be angry or feel grief or fear. And um, but true awareness includes emotional honesty. You sit in that, and you don't. Well, I was going to say you don't allow the mind, because the mind will do what the mind does best. It's going to make stories either way. Uh, but awareness, it just gives you the ability to be honest with yourself, and see it as what it is. And at that moment, um, there's no need to do anything. Um, you're aware of the emotion, you're aware of the anger or the fear. It's there, but it doesn't go any further. It doesn't change in any way. Um, by the mind not getting involved, it doesn't become a bigger thing. It doesn't get filled up with anything. Um, and I want to take that aside and mix up and bring hypnosis as a tool in that system. Again, because I like to use it when I work with people. Hypnosis doesn't tell you what to believe in. It helps you see why you're believing it. It allows you to have that clarity. Um, and it works with it through experience, not ideology. You get to experience what you haven't experienced, and it brings a lot of the stuff that it's been unconscious into light. And again, not that this doesn't happen if you just sit in consciousness or you do some sort of practice that allows you to break the patterns, allows you to become more aware of what's going on. It just brings that to light. It gives you that clarity. Um, Again, as a shortcut, as an instrument. In And now is a good time. I've said that before, but I'll bring it up again to tell you that um, all hypnosis is self hypnosis. Again, I'm bringing this to connected with awareness, conscious, subconscious. Um, Me as a facilitator, I just use it as a tool to help you get there faster. But it usually happens. The trance state or the outer state, or where you connect with your unconscious or deeper mind, happens automatically as you do some kind of formal practice. If you're doing sitting or um, walking meditation or any kind of um, practice or system, either mantras, or yogis have different systems, or um, Zen Buddhists or different cultures have different practice that can help you get there. Hypnosis is just one of the tools that allows that to happen. And so, what awakening looks like in real life, um, it's pausing before reacting. You're in the midst of whatever is happening. Not you, not your ego, not your mass, but that awareness that's deep inside of who you are. Um, it sees it, and you have that window that gives you that clarity before reacting, and feeling emotions without being consumed by them. Again, because the emotions will rise because they're energy and emotion, and you again will be able to um, witness them without being consumed or entangled by the emotion. Um, and then um, not questioning, or being able to question the inner narrative of whatever your mind it's giving you, or like whatever the narrative is in that moment or in that situation. And then having the choice to respond instead of react of a habit. So that's really what awakening looks like in real life, if you want to have an idea of how that will um, look one or look like to one. Um, so you don't awake once you're awakening through moments. It's not like how we do it just, well, to some it could be like spontaneous at once, like Eckhart Tolle was one of those people. I listened to one of his stories where he was just struggling and had all of a sudden that clarity that like once, and like boom. But usually it happens gradually, where you use every moment to kind of get yourself out of this like automatic behavior or operating that you do usually from day to day. And thanks for the question. Is hypnosis good for everyone? No, hypnosis is not good for everyone. It's a natural process. Uh, but usually it's not good to be used with people that have some kind of condition where their reality could be really, or the border in between their realities could be like really thin, because that doesn't really help them. It just pushes them off. And that kind of people can already be in a struggle, because how they operate based on body mind that they inhabit can have really close borders to what might be real or unreal to them, and ask a follow-up question if that makes sense to you. And It's safe, yes. Um, Hypnosis, it's safe because, again, it's one of the instruments. It's a natural process, a process that occurs naturally. Most of the people experience it every day without even knowing it. They're getting fascinated. You could be um, washing dishes, for example, or doing something else when you check out, and you're no longer present in this moment. You're entranced in something else, maybe fantasy that you have about something. Um, and my observation is that it happens a lot of the times through the day. And I'll compare it to some of the observations that I've done in to comparison to some of the Eastern practices of yoga, when they're talking about Ila and Pingala, the two channels that they explain about, um, the two energy channels that go in the spine, and how the energy intertwines and goes to the left and right side of the brain. And some of their practices is alternate breathing, where you breathe from the one nostril and exhale through the other to balance how the energy works, to get both hemispheres of your brain in sync. Um, and I'll go to some of the findings that Robert Monroe done with the Monroe Institute, about um, syncing both sides of the brain. And I'll tell you why I'm talking about it. But he studied, and he did the Monroe Institute, and he come up with this um, thing called hemisync, or where he plays two different sounds from left and right ear, because they're connecting the opposite sides of the hemispheres of the brain. And when they're slightly off frequency, if you listen to one with in the one ear, then you hear a steady tone. And then when you listen to the other and the other ear, that also gives you a clear tone. But once you sync them, you hear this oscillation going like between left and right. Um, it's very interesting. But the reason I'm talking about it is because left brain, it's usually language, arithmetics, you doing calculus, learning other things, where the right brain, it's where we do a lot of our um, imagining, image seeing, things like that. And so when, um, say you work um, a job that requires you to do a lot of critical thinking, if you do it for a prolonged time, your body knows automatically that's too much, and you have this kind of like a block where you just like, that's it, and you have to get up and walk to allow that other side to get in sync. um, and so usually that happens automatically without us knowing it. Through the days, you shift from one side to the other side based on different activities that we do through the day. And that's the reason I was talking about it. There you go. And yeah, we talked about hemisync, and and I like his comments. Well, I'm sure you're gonna be able to fix your furnace somehow. Maybe if not by syncing both sides of your brain, but maybe calling somebody, if you don't know how to do it, to help you get that fixed for you. Um, no problem there. And again, I appreciate all your comments. I like to keep this engaging and entertaining and informational for you guys. So if you have any questions or anything else, I would welcome all your input. So to go back to what I was saying, that you don't awaken once, you awaken to moments. You take that awareness and you use it to get more aware and more aware and more aware of like what's going on in um in awakening. It's a process, it's not a destination. It's not, there's no destination that you're going to, or a practice that'll get you there fast. And again, I see that a lot with clickbait thumbnails or videos, or even shorts, where people say you only need to do this once and you'll be awakened, or the only meditation you're ever gonna need, or um, only sound, or the only thing, whatever that is, that'll get you there like instantly. And that's fair to say. And now that we're living in this according to, again, some of the Eastern philosophies of the Kali Yuga, or the Dark Ages, or darkness, or the veiling, or whatever you want to call it. That you know, in having all the information with the internet and the tips of our fingers, and be able to grab it instantly, everyone is tempted to think of it that it's something that you can get overnight. And I've been there at the beginning when I was meditating, and things were happening. I wanted to be able to, like, say, because again, people say, oh, once you clear your emotions that are in your body and everything, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do the work, I'm gonna meditate harder, I'm gonna do all those other things to, get it faster and be there, and get it done. um, but in reality, no. And yes, um, I did listen to Monroe tapes you sent me. They're wonderful, and and I like, and this is my personal opinion. Don't take my word for it. I would advise anyone to go check them out. I think they're still selling them in the Monroe's website. If you Google Monroe's Institute, that'll come up. Um, and what I like about it is that it's set on different stages, per se, like exercises. You start from one, two, three, four, and so on. So it doesn't get like really, how do I say that? It doesn't get overwhelming, because if you're not um, aware of something, when all of a sudden becomes on the front of your awareness, it might feel a little bit jarring, or it might feel overwhelming to some. And I'll give an experience when I had a out of body experience the first time. It felt vertigo, like it was dizzying. It wasn't something pleasant, and I wasn't expecting it. Nobody said, "Oh, this might happen." So I wasn't expecting it, and all of a sudden I'm spinning, and I don't know how to stop it, or even if I have a control of stopping it and being able to uh, get that going. um, and thank you. Yeah. Um, yeah. 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 Spinning as well. That's another thing. Some I experienced through starting some kind of practice of meditating. when there is quietness in the mind and there's certain awareness of the observer mind, you might start, or the body might start feeling like it's spinning. And I've seen quite a bit of videos on the internet talking about that, or people asking questions like, why do I feel like I'm spinning and meditating? Like when I'm sitting, why does my body spin, or why does my body feel like it's doing things on its own, or wanting to bend and do different things? In reality of things is that the consciousness that you are, it's not what happens in the body. Um it's the illusion of the perception that you have, that say you're breathing. When you want to do it consciously, you can control it consciously and say, here I can breathe consciously, and inhale and do all these things. But then everything happens automatically, because if you're conscious of your breathing all the time and you forget to be conscious of your breathing, then you'll die from suffocation. So, um, in a way, when you start meditating and that awareness comes to front and you become more aware of like what's going on in the body, then certain things will come to your awareness that might be interesting, like the spinning sensation when you sit to do meditation. Um, and I've seen people advise people to stop it, and they say, "Oh, if he gives you this, just stop it. Don't meditate anymore. It's it's better to go back to sleep." And don't worry about like what's going on. Like you don't need to know. um, which could be true for some people. It could be like, sure, like this feels uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. I'll go in the nice and comfy where I feel like nice and everything. It's good, instead of just becoming more aware of, like getting to know yourself more, and go like, I didn't know that about myself, and now I know that this was so deep, and now the awareness is there, and I know that it's possible. And and again, I've also read in some of the Eastern teachings where they say, yeah, some people get to a certain point when that becomes uncomfortable, and that's the threshold, and they stop and they don't do any kind of practice, or they don't um, continue on to build up upon that process of being aware of what's going on. Um, and again, it's you just don't wake up. It's not. It's a moment. Go to the process, and you don't go for the destination. The way I like to say it is that um, the map is not the territory, and you enjoy the journey, not the destination. Because think about it. When you're free and say you're dancing, and you're dancing for the sake of dancing because that's something that, say, brings you pleasure in that moment, and there is no need to get from the one side of the dance floor to the other side of the dance floor, and that being the destination, or destination being as like who's going to be dancing faster than the other person, is just the process that happens, and people enjoy the process. You enjoy the unfolding, and same as any kind of other creative work. Say you're painting, you don't get everything done for the sake of like having the drawing or the picture or whatever you're doing. um, you actually enjoy the process. You're more present to the different types of colors that you're mixing. Depends on what you're doing it with. you take the time, you observe how the brush goes in everything else, and it could be a meditative process altogether. So, um, just to recap, um, it doesn't happen at once. It could, but most likely it won't. And it's a process, not a destination. And each moment of awareness awakens in consciousness in you. In awakening is not about uh, escaping. It's about realizing uh, you're the one watching it, well, not you as like this is me. Um, and that could be contradictory to some because they really feel like they're in the body and they're a certain person and they have certain nationality and certain affiliation to sports teams and having certain ego kind of mind that's created. So that's pretty much what I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Glad I had some of your comments to interact with you guys. That was really uh, enjoyable for me. And I leave you with the hopes that you enjoyed it as well. This show, again, runs every Friday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, and 7 a.m. Pacific. Um, and we usually have guests, but as the holidays and everything, I'm just doing a solo. Carrie didn't show up, but it's all right. We're looking forward to have her on the next Friday. And with that, do you guys have any questions before I close it out, or any thoughts or parting thoughts or anything you like to say? I'll give you a couple of seconds because latency and when this is going to get to you. Drink a little coffee. Oh, thank you, Bonnie. Mm. You're one of our regulars, and we really enjoy having you every Friday with us. So, yeah. All right. And with that, I'm going to wish you all a wonderful weekend full of joy, happiness, good moments, excitement, and maybe some warm weather. All right. I'll see